I went camping in Alaska a few years ago. I was 35 and wanted to escape the city and capture nature's beauty. I found a spot far from any tourists. It was peaceful, and I thought it would be a perfect place for inspiration. I set up my tent next to a quiet lake. At night, I could hear the water lapping gently at the shore. I felt relaxed until I heard rustling sounds outside. They were not random sounds. They were distinct. I thought it was the wind. Still, a nagging feeling grew in my gut. I felt like I was being watched. I told myself it was silly, but I couldn't help checking every time I heard a noise. The second night was different. Around midnight, strange flickering lights appeared in the distance. I heard murmurs drifting through the trees. It was faint but persistent. I wanted to brush it off as my imagination, but my heart raced. I convinced myself it was just animals, but something felt very wrong. The next morning, I found my gear scattered. I had left everything neatly organized. Instead, my backpack was a few feet away from my tent. There were deep footprints around my tent too, wide, heavy prints. They didn't lead anywhere. I felt uneasy but shook it off, thinking about taking pictures of the beauty around me. Each night brought more unsettling experiences. I saw shadows flickering between the trees. I forced myself to think it was just my eyes playing tricks. But the more I tried to convince myself, the colder I felt. I wasn't sure if it was my imagination or if something was actually out there. On the final night, I crawled into my sleeping bag hoping to get some rest. Then, I heard something near my feet. Fear gripped me. I felt a chill, like icy air had crept in. My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move. I felt frozen in place. Finally, I carefully unzipped my tent. Everything looked normal. My campfire flickered softly, but then I spotted a figure by the edge of the tree line. It was hard to see, just a dark shape standing still. I felt an urge to call out. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice shaky. They didn't reply. Then, without a word, they vanished into the darkness. My stomach knotted up. What had I just seen? I felt a wave of panic wash over me. Was I losing my mind? I didn't know what to think. It felt like my senses were unraveling. In the morning, I packed quickly, eager to get back to civilization. As I looked back at the campsite for one last time, I wondered about the figure. Was it real? Was it just my imagination? I still don't know what happened that night. But that feeling of being watched, it hasn't left me. The drive home was tense. I gripped the steering wheel, replaying every moment of that trip in my mind. The rustling, the lights, the figure by the trees, it all felt surreal. I couldn't shake that feeling of dread, even as the familiar sights of the city came into view. I told myself it was all in my head. But that didn't stop the shivers down my spine. Once I was home, I tried to relax, but it was difficult. Each creak of the house made me jump. My cozy apartment felt strange, like a cage after being in the wild. I stayed close to the window, peering out into the shadowy streets below. I never thought I would miss the sunlit wilderness, but it seemed safer than the haunting memories replaying in my mind. Days went by, but sleep eluded me. I started doing research, looking for stories that matched my experience. I found a few on obscure online forums about strange occurrences in the woods. Other campers spoke of voices, flickering lights, and shadowy figures. Each story felt like a confirmation that I wasn't alone in my fears. One night, I stumbled upon a post that caught my eye. The author claimed to have encountered something similar near my camping spot, a legend of sorts about watchers in the woods. They said these beings could appear as shadows, but some locals insisted they were spirits protecting the area. As I read each word, a mixture of fear and curiosity washed over me. Did I wander into a realm I shouldn't have? Intrigued and slightly terrified, I decided to reach out to the author. I wanted to know more about their experience. After a few back-and-forth messages, we arranged to meet at a cafe. They were eager to share their story. That night, I barely slept, a whirlwind of questions flooding my mind. When we met, I sat across from a young woman named Lisa. Her eyes held a kind of recognition, a shared understanding of what it felt like to glimpse the unimaginable. As she recounted her experience, I felt a chill creep down my spine. It was like something was trying to communicate, she said, her voice trembling. I could feel them watching me just like you did. I asked about the figure I saw. Her response sent shivers through me. You might have seen a watcher, she said, leaning in closer. They can attract attention to themselves when they feel threatened. People usually see them out of the corner of their eyes. I wanted to ask more, but the words caught in my throat. Questions spiraled in my mind. Why had I felt so drawn to that spot? Why did I even go camping alone? The more we talked, the more I felt that pull to return to the campsite. As we parted, Lisa handed me a handwritten map. If you decide to go back, she said, take this. There's a place deep in the woods where people say the watchers gather. Maybe you'll find answers. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. That nagging feeling of being watched returned, sharper than before. I rolled over, trying to shake it off. But then, just before I drifted into a restless sleep, my phone buzzed. A message from Lisa. Be careful. I had a feeling you might be in danger. The weight of her words pressed heavily on my chest. The next morning I felt disoriented. The sun had risen, but I still felt the shadows lingering. I couldn't shake the thought that maybe I had crossed a line I wasn't meant to. Despite my apprehension, the pull to return to the campsite was growing stronger. Lisa's words echoed in my mind. I decided to go back. I couldn't let fear dictate my life. After all, I needed answers. Armed with the map she gave me, I packed a small bag and headed back to the site. The drive felt longer this time, each mile amplifying my anxiety. What would I find? As I approached the woods, a sense of unease washed over me. The trees loomed larger than I remembered, their branches swaying like skeletal hands. I parked my car and took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I felt like I was being beckoned, urging me deeper into the darkness. Following the map, I walked along the familiar path, the crunch of leaves beneath my feet echoing in the stillness. Soon, I reached the clearing where I had set up my tent. It felt different now, as if the ground was charged with energy. I hesitated before stepping into the space, scanning for any signs of the watchers Lisa mentioned. I set my things down and took a moment to breathe. The woods felt alive. I noticed a faint rustling, but when I turned, there was nothing. I shook my head, chalking it up to my overactive imagination. Determined to explore, I continued deeper into the woods, hoping to find the watchers' gathering spot. As I navigated the terrain, I encountered strange markings etched into the trees. They looked like symbols, almost like warnings. I snapped a few pictures, feeling a chill creep up my spine. Each symbol seemed to vibrate with energy, as if holding onto a history I couldn't comprehend. Just when I started feeling comfortable again, my instincts kicked in. I felt eyes on me, watching, waiting. I turned quickly, expecting to see someone, but again there was nothing, just shadows. My heart raced as the doubt returned. What was I doing here? Then I heard it. A whisper, faint and quiet, but clear enough to send tingles across my skin. Turn back. I froze, scanning my surroundings. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice shaky. But all I heard was silence, thick and heavy. It struck me then that I was not alone. The feeling of being watched intensified, sending me into a panic. I turned, ready to bolt back to the car when something caught my eye. A flash near the edge of the trees. It was dark, like a shadow cast in an odd shape. My breath caught in my throat. I took a cautious step forward, heart pounding. That's when I saw it, a figure standing among the trees. It didn't move, just watched. Every rational part of me screamed to run, but I was rooted in place. I couldn't confirm if it was real or just my imagination. There, standing out against the underbrush, I caught a glimpse of something that felt both familiar and alarming. And just as my mind raced with what to do next, the figure flickered, as if caught between two worlds. Everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness swallowed everything around me. The sounds of the forest faded into silence, and for a moment I was suspended in a void. My heart raced, and panic clawed at my throat. I felt a sensation like electricity dance across my skin, and then I stumbled back, my feet finding solid ground again. I blinked and found myself back in the clearing. The figure had vanished, but the air felt charged with an unfamiliar presence. Shadows moved and swayed around me, and the whisper returned, this time stronger. "Come closer," it beckoned, the voice both inviting and threatening. What was happening? I was being called deeper into the woods, and every instinct screamed at me to run. But the need for answers overpowered my fear. I took a shaky step forward, guided by that persistent whisper, which seemed to wrap around me like a thread pulling me in. As I moved, the atmosphere thickened, and the symbols on the trees glowed faintly, illuminating my path. They pulsed with a soft light, almost like they were alive. I felt compelled to touch one. My fingers brushed the bark, and a jolt shot through me. It was warmth, mixed with something darker, a surge of energy that left me breathless. Suddenly I heard rustling again, more urgent this time. "You shouldn't be here," a new voice warned, clear as day. I spun around, heart pounding in my ears. A woman stood at the edge of the clearing, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and urgency. Her hair was wild, as if she had been lost in the woods for days. "Who are you?" I managed to say, struggling to remain steady. "Get out now!" she urged, glancing over her shoulder nervously. "They're not far behind. You need to leave before it's too late." I didn't understand what she meant. "Who's after you?" I asked. "What's happening?" She shook her head, her expression desperate. "It's not safe. The Watchers are real, and they won't let you go once they have your attention." She pointed to the path I had taken, the way the symbols flickered as if alive. "You're drawing them in just by being here. If you stay, you'll be one of them." I felt my breath hitch. The symbols on the trees, the whispers in the air, everything was warning me. Fear crept back in. "I need answers. I can't just leave," I said, uncertainty mixed with defiance. Her eyes darkened. "The answers you seek will come, but not in the way you want. You need to trust your instinct. Fight it." Before I could respond, the rustling grew louder, branches cracking underfoot. My stomach sank as I faced the direction of the sound. The shadows were thickening into something solid, something that felt unnervingly aware. Just as I prepared to run, the woman grabbed my wrist. "You have to choose, now." The weight of her words pressed down on me, and a choice lay before me, risk staying for answers or flee for my life. The decision sent my mind spiraling. Before I could think further, the shadows lunged forward and I felt a surge of terror. Suddenly darkness enveloped me once more, closing in. The last thing I heard was the woman's pleading voice. "You can't outrun the Watchers. Choose wisely." Then everything went black again. I gasped as light flooded back into my vision. I was sprawled on damp ground, my heart pounding, and the clearing now looked different. The trees felt taller, the whispers more pronounced, wrapping around me like a tangible cloak. I pushed myself up and scanned my surroundings, unsure of where I was or how I'd gotten there. "It's waking up," a voice murmured nearby. I flinched, looking over to find the wild-haired woman again, her anxious gaze fixed on something I couldn't see. "You shouldn't have come back. You need to leave." "Leave? I just got here. What's going on?" My frustration bubbled over. I was tired of being in the dark, literally and figuratively. She pointed toward the edge of the clearing. The Watchers will know you're here now. Her voice was laced with urgency. They can sense curiosity, and they'll use it against you. You need to listen, or you'll lose yourself. I squinted into the shadows, half tempted to disbelieve her. But a chill raced down my spine, reminding me of the darkness that had swallowed me just moments ago. I won't leave without knowing what this is. I can't just run away. Curiosity leads to doom, she said. Her hands trembled slightly, and I realized she was frightened for both of us. Every step you take invites them closer. You don't understand the danger. As her words sunk in, I felt that pulsating energy again. It was stronger now, a magnetic pull, as if the trees themselves were alive and eager to share their secrets. "What do you know?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who are the Watchers?" She turned her gaze deeper into the woods, shaking her head. "Some things were never meant to be known," she whispered. "They take forms, shadows, creatures, but most often they become the very thoughts that haunt you." I took a reluctant step back, processing what she said. "What if I don't want to let them in?" I asked. The weight of the choice heavy on my shoulders. Her expression softened. "It's not about wanting. It's about knowing how to resist. You need to find the anchor, the source of power that belongs to you alone." Her eyes darted toward the glowing symbols on the trees. "They can teach you, but only if you prove yourself worthy." Before I could respond, the rustling returned, but this time it came from behind me, branches snapping sharply. A shadow darted through the underbrush, moving swiftly in our direction. My heart raced again and I spun around, every muscle tense. Then everything went silent. The woods held their breath as if waiting for something to happen. I felt the temperature drop, and the air thickened with anticipation. That's when I saw it. An elongated silhouette creeping forward, its movements unnaturally fluid, like a predator stalking its prey. My instincts kicked in and I stepped back, nearly tripping over a tree root. "What is that?" I gasped, my voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever it is, it's drawn to you," she said, her fear now palpable. "We need to move, now." But I hesitated, torn between running or facing whatever horror was approaching. I wanted to find the answers she mentioned, but the urge to escape was overwhelming. Just as it seemed to lunge into the clearing, I turned and ran, trusting my instincts while the woman called out behind me. "Fight it! Remember the anchor!" My breath came in quick gasps as I burst through the underbrush, desperate to find a way out of the darkness once more. Would I find my anchor, or become just another whisper in the woods? I darted between the trees, the underbrush tearing at my clothes, branches snapping as if they were trying to hold me back. The shadow loomed behind me, each rustle of leaves sending a thrill of fear down my spine. I couldn't look back. Doing so felt like tempting fate. "Think, what's your anchor?" I muttered to myself, searching for clarity amid the chaos. What could possibly ground me in a world that felt so twisted? I remembered the woman's words, but had no idea what they truly meant. The ground dipped and rose under my feet, leading me deeper into the woods. I noticed ribbons of light pulsating among the trees, glowing symbols that seemed to shift and change as I moved. Maybe they held the answers. I picked up my pace, hoping to find one close enough to touch. Suddenly I stumbled into a small clearing illuminated by the eerie glow of those symbols. They swirled around me, casting shapes of animals, faces, and twisting branches in the air. It felt as if the forest was trying to communicate, to whisper secrets that could help me. "Focus!" I shouted, looking around. "What do you want me to know?" I felt absurd talking to the air, but desperation pushed me onward. Then I heard it, a low growl, dark and rumbling, echoing through the trees. The sound seemed to be latching onto my fear. I whirled around, expecting the shadow to emerge any second. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement in the symbols. They shifted, revealing a figure standing at the edge of the clearing. My heart pounded as I took it in. A girl, no older than me, with dark hair and an expression of intense focus. She stood with her back to me, her hands lifted toward the pulsing light. "What are you doing?" I called, inching closer. She turned, and her eyes gleamed like the symbols, glowing with an otherworldly energy. "You have to claim your power," she yelled, her voice cutting through the tension in the air. "It's the only way to stop them." "Stop who?" I shouted back, a mixture of fear and curiosity pushing me to bridge the space between us. "The Watchers," she replied, urgency in every word. "They feed on your fear. You need to show them you're not afraid." Right then, the growl grew louder, thundering through the clearing. I looked back and saw the silhouette moving closer, its form twisting as it lurked between the trees. "Focus!" the girl insisted, desperation sneaking into her voice. "Channel the energy, let the symbols guide you." I felt the tugging energy return stronger than before. The glow surrounding me radiated heat, enveloping me in its warmth, inviting. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath, willing myself to disregard the fear tightening my chest. As I concentrated, the symbols flared brighter. I could feel the pulse of the forest sync with my heartbeat, creating a rhythm that filled the space. When I opened my eyes again, I felt different, empowered. Then came the realization. I could no longer hear the growl. I looked around, but the shadow had stopped, hovering at the edge of the clearing, still and silent. "What happened?" I whispered, shocked by the shift. "The anchor is within you," the girl said softly, a small smile creeping onto her lips. "You are stronger than you know." Just as relief washed over me, I felt a tremor beneath my feet. The ground shook, and the symbols flickered violently. I stumbled, my heart racing once more. "Stay focused! This is just the beginning!" she shouted, but the ground shifted again and darkness washed over the clearing, swallowing the light whole. Panic surged as I grasped for something, anything to keep my footing. Would my newfound power be enough to face whatever was coming next? The darkness was thick, pressing against my skin like a heavy blanket. I reached out, hoping to find the girl, to grasp her hand, but all I felt was the cold air. "What's happening?" I called, my voice trembling. "Stay with me." Her voice echoed, barely audible in the oppressive silence that followed the tremors. I could barely see anything. The symbols around me blinked in and out, as though they were struggling for breath alongside me. "Where are you?" I yelled. Each word seemed to dissolve into the gloom. I took a cautious step forward, fighting the urge to flee. The growl returned, lower and more menacing, surrounding me now like a predator ready to pounce. Then a flash of light ignited the clearing, illuminating the space just long enough for me to see the girl, standing firm, her arms raised high. The glowing symbols spiraled around her, responding to whatever power she was channeling. "You need to do it too," she shouted, her voice cutting through the darkness like a lifeline. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to gather whatever strength I had. I remembered the warmth, the connection with the forest. I took a deep breath and reached for the flickering energy. "I am not afraid." The words spilled from my mouth, rising above the growling chaos. Light surged through me, igniting the ground underfoot. Suddenly I was filled with a bright, white energy, radiating from my chest. I opened my eyes, and the symbols blazed brightly, lighting up the clearing with vibrant colors. The darkness recoiled, swirling back like smoke in the wind. The growling stopped. At that moment I turned to face the shadow, anger mingling with fear. "You won't take me," I yelled, my voice stronger than before. I felt the girl beside me mirroring my strength as the symbols danced faster, their shapes warping into fierce creatures, wolves, eagles, and even serpents, all protecting me. But then I saw it. The shadow morphed. It transformed into a creature, its eyes burning like hot coals, skin stretched tight over its bones. It was no longer just a shadow. It had a face, twisted by rage and hunger. I stumbled backward, the power within me flickering at the sight. "Stand your ground," the girl urged, forcing me to look at her. "It's feeding on your fear. Fight back." I clutched at the energy coursing through me, pouring everything I had into it. "You do not scare me." Each word ignited a pulse of light that shot toward the creature. The glow exploded upon impact, sending shockwaves through the clearing. The creature howled, a sound so sharp it threatened to break glass, and staggered back into the darkness. The shadows began to claw at each other, as if fighting to escape. But even as the light pushed back the creature, the darkness still lingered at the edge of the clearing. "It's not over," the girl shouted. "They'll be back." Then, before I could respond, the ground shook again, but this time with a violent force. The symbols sputtered, dimming like a candle about to go out. I felt my connection to the power wane, slipping through my fingers like sand. "What do we do now?" I gasped, panic rising in my throat. "Follow the light," she demanded, pointing beyond the clearing just as the darkness surged again, creeping closer. I had no choice. The danger was palpable, and instinct kicked in. I bolted towards the pulsating symbols, the warmth guiding the way. I could hear the creature's growl behind me, but it was fading, losing its potency with every step I took. As I ran, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was leaving something behind, something important. Would I find the answers I needed ahead, or was I only running deeper into the unknown? I darted through the trees, branches scratching at my arms, each breath sharp in my lungs. I could feel the presence of darkness still lingering behind me, but I pushed forward. The symbols glowed brighter ahead, acting as a beacon in the chaos. Finally, I burst into a small clearing. The light here was different, softer, swaying gently like flames in a breeze. In the center stood an older man, cloaked in deep blue. His eyes were bright, level, and piercing as they locked onto mine. I skidded to a halt, confusion washing over me. "Who are you?" "I am the Keeper," he said, his voice calm and steady. "I've been waiting for you both." "Waiting for us?" I echoed, glancing back to see if the girl was close behind. "Why?" "I've sensed the awakening of your powers," he explained, gesturing for us to come closer. "But you are not alone in this fight." The girl joined me, her eyes wide. "What do you mean?" she asked, stepping forward. The Keeper gestured around the clearing, and suddenly the symbols I had seen earlier began to swirl around us again, forming paths of light that split off into the trees. "These are gateways to other realms," he revealed. "You can harness them, but only if you learn to trust yourself." My heart raced. "How do we do that?" "By confronting your fears," he said, looking at me intently. "The darkness is no longer just a shadow. It's a force that seeks to weaken you." I swallowed hard. "How do we defeat it?" The Keeper nodded, acknowledging my resolve. "You must seek the truth about the darkness. It holds connections to your past. Follow the paths of light, and know that you do not have to do this alone." Before I could ask more, I felt a tremor beneath my feet. The ground shook, and the shadows flickered at the edge of the clearing like curtains being pulled back. The growling returned, closer now, more furious than before. "They've found us," I shouted. "Choose a path," the Keeper commanded as the air filled with tension. "You must decide." Panic shot through me. I glanced back at the light, back to the Keeper, then at the girl. "We can't split up." "Trust in your connection," he urged. "You know which path calls to you. Find strength in each other and you will prevail. I locked eyes with the girl, and in that moment I felt it. The anger, the bravery, the thrill of adventure, all intermingled with fear. Let's go, I determined, knowing there was no turning back. We raced towards one of the glowing paths, hoping desperately that it was the right choice. As we moved forward, the shadows erupted behind us, a rush of dark fury. We need to hurry, I urged again, the growling becoming deafening. That's when I saw it, the silhouette of a massive shape hovering at the edge, shifting like smoke. It wasn't just following us. It was blocking our escape. "Keep going," the girl yelled, her voice cutting through the noise. I sprinted faster, fear clawing at my heels. But just when I thought we had chosen wisely, the ground beneath us split open. Red light pulsed from the chasm, illuminating the shadows lurking within. "No!" I screamed, recognizing the darkness stretched wide, waiting to swallow me whole. "Jump!" she shouted without missing a beat. As I leaped into the unknown, my stomach dropped. I didn't know if we would win this fight, but there was no turning back now. The truth was out there, and I was about to find it. I fell through the chasm, the world around me spinning wildly. The air was thick, and I braced for impact. Instead of crashing, I landed softly on a grass-covered surface, disoriented but unhurt. The light from above faded, leaving us in eerie twilight. "Where are we?" I gasped, trying to gather my bearings. I looked around, seeing the girl beside me, her eyes darting in fear. I don't know," she said, her voice trembling. Just as I turned to face her, a cold breeze rustled the leaves, sending shivers down my spine. The symbols that had glowed so brightly now dimmed, casting strange shadows on the ground. I felt a creeping sensation like hands brushing against my skin. My heart hammered in my chest. "We need to stick together." A low growl echoed around us, and I felt my breath catch. "What was that?" I whispered, scanning the darkening forest for any movement. "I don't know, but we should find a way out," she said, her voice steadying. "The Keeper said these paths are for harnessing our powers. Maybe we can use them." I nodded, but my thoughts were racing. I felt vulnerable. What if it finds us first? As if in answer, the growl returned, closer this time, accompanied by the sound of snapping twigs. I turned, and there it was, an outline gliding between the trees. It had glowing red eyes, pinpoints of malice, and it was not alone. Shadows lurked behind it, darker than the night. "We have to move." The girl grabbed my arm, pulling me along. We stumbled deeper into the forest, breathless, desperate. The paths of light flared around us. I squinted, trying to make sense of the symbols flickering in the distance. "There!" I pointed toward a path that pulsed brighter than the rest, an urgent call that felt almost alive. "It's our only chance." As we raced towards that flickering light, branches whipped against our skin, but we pressed on. Behind us the growls transformed into monstrous howls, echoing through the trees, filling my heart with dread. "That's it," she shouted, urgency in her voice. "We can't look back. Trust in each other." I nodded, determination replacing my fear for a moment. We both reached out, fingers brushing against each other. A warm energy surged through us, igniting a spark of hope. We were still connected. But when I stepped into the glowing path, the shadows lunged. A great beast emerged, all fangs and fury. Its breath was hot and heavy on my neck. It leaped, and instinct took over. I yanked the girl with me, throwing ourselves into the light. It didn't feel like anything I had experienced before. Everything around us warped, colors swirling. The shadows shrieked in rage, but something about the light pushed them back. I held on tight, feeling the power envelop us. And then, everything went dark. I blinked, disoriented. A chill ran down my spine as I took in my surroundings. We were in a vast cavern, lit by bioluminescent plants that glowed eerily. The air was thick and heavy. "Where are we now?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. That's when I spotted it. In the corner, half hidden in the shadows, was an ancient stone pedestal. On top lay a shimmering object, radiating energy that felt eerily familiar. I stepped closer, the weight of dread settling in my stomach. "What is that?" As I reached out, I hesitated, a deep instinct screaming at me not to touch it. But then the growling from the shadows resumed, more urgent. I realized we had mere seconds before we were confronted again. "Do we take it?" she hissed, fear ripe in her tone. "I don't know," I admitted, glancing back at the growing darkness, feeling the urgency clawing at me. "But we need answers, and fast." Before I could decide, the growling intensified and the shadows pressed closer. With no other option left, I grasped the shimmering object tightly in my hands. The moment I made contact, an electric jolt surged through my body, sending waves of light spiraling outwards. The cavern pulsed with energy, illuminating every dark crevice. I could feel the shadows recoil, as if the very light within the artifact was pushing them back. "What is this?" the girl asked, her voice filled with equal parts fear and awe. "I don't know," I replied, amazed at the object's beauty. It had intricate designs swirling on its surface, symbols much like those we had seen before. "But I think it's connected to those symbols, its power." Just as I spoke, the shadows coalesced, and the beast appeared again, larger and more menacing than before. Its glowing red eyes seemed to pierce through the dim light. "You think the light will save you?" it growled, voice dripping with malice. "You're only feeding your own downfall." The shadows around it thickened, blending into a swirling mass of darkness. The cavern's atmosphere shifted, heavy with an impending dread. The girl's grip tightened on my arm. "What do we do?" she gasped, eyes darting around. "Stand back," I commanded, feeling a surge of courage. I raised the artifact above my head, channeling the brilliant energy the object emitted. "I won't let you take us." As if responding to my defiance, the shadows flared, and the beast lunged toward us. But in that instant, the energy from the artifact shot out in a brilliant beam, illuminating the entire cavern and freezing the creature in place. The push of power enveloped us, wrapping our figures in a cocoon of light. The darkness howled, furious and disoriented. "You're meddling with forces you don't understand," it bellowed. "I might not understand," I shouted back, my voice stealing with determination, "but I won't be a victim anymore." The light intensified, cascading over the shadows like a tidal wave. I felt the girl step closer, her courage melding with mine as we stood unified against the encroaching darkness. Together we pointed the artifact towards the beast, releasing the energy in one final explosive burst. The cave erupted in brightness, the light momentarily blinding me. I squeezed my eyes shut as the beam surged forward. The echoes of the beast's enraged howl filled the cavern, blending into a cacophony of confusion. When the light faded, I slowly opened my eyes. The cavern looked different. The shadows had receded, dissolved into wisps that floated away into the air. The beast was gone, but so was the artifact. All that remained was its faint glow etched into the walls around us, the symbols transformed, no longer threatening but peaceful. Did we do it? The girl's voice was tinged with disbelief, and I looked at her, equally astonished. "I think we did," I replied tentatively, searching for any sign of the darkness returning. "But I don't know if it's really over. Are we safe?" The cavern felt tranquil now, but unease lingered. I took a shuddering breath, clutching at the moment, yet knowing the deeper questions remained unanswered. What would follow? Had the Watchers truly been vanquished? Or was this only a temporary reprieve? "We need to get out of here," I said finally, glancing around as the cavern light began to flicker. "I want to collapse onto the actual ground again, not whatever this is." as we traversed through what felt less like a maze and more like a faintly familiar path. I couldn't shake the feeling that our journey was far from over. The lurking shadows might have retreated, but I felt them whispering at the edges of my mind, unknown yet ever present. Once outside, squinting into the blinding light of the sun, I quickly realized that I had no idea where we were. The forest still stood dense around us, but it felt alive in a different way, as if it knew what I was capable of now. Did I want to explore deeper, or was it time to go home and leave this all behind? "We made it," I said, half to myself and half to the girl, who stood beside me looking awestruck. She nodded, a fragile smile breaking through. "But how can we be sure it's safe now?" "Nothing is ever truly safe," I replied, even as hope washed over me. "We just have to be smart about it." And with that, I took a step forward, my heart thrilling with that adventurous spirit still surging through me. Perhaps the watchers lurked among the trees, their presence still embedded within the woods, filled with secrets waiting to be unraveled. I moved ahead, ready for whatever the future might bring. As we tread softly on the path, I couldn't help but glance back towards the thick woods, wondering if the boundary between light and shadow would ever truly resolve, or if I would continue to be tangled in this dance, always shadowed, always curious. But for now, at least, I knew I had the strength to face them. I just didn't yet know what that really meant.